All right, welcome back, everyone. We're diving right into a recap of everything that happened last week in the Faroe Islands. We'll cover the big political stories, some cool stuff happening in sports, and even a bit about the wild weather they had.
It was a really interesting week over there for sure. Definitely lots to talk about.
Okay, so first up, you know the Suðuroyartunnelin,
Yeah.
that proposed tunnel.
Uh-huh.
Well, the public comment deadline just got extended way out to December 12th next year, 2024.
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal. It kind of shows how complicated this whole tunnel thing is. They have to, figure out the economics, like will it really help Suro's economy or not?
Exactly,
And then there's the environment, right? Like what's the impact going to be? It's a lot to consider and it's super expensive too.
for sure. And speaking of the environment, we can't forget FNU. They're that environmental group in the Faroe Islands, and they've been pretty outspoken about this tunnel. They're worried about how much land they'll need for the project and what it'll do to the natural habitats there.
Yeah, they're definitely concerned. They say the environmental studies haven't been thorough enough yet. So I think this extra time is going to be used to look into things more carefully, get more people's opinions, and hopefully figure out solutions to some of the problems before they make a final decision.
It's a tough situation, trying to balance everything.
It is.
So moving on from the tunnel, there's also been a lot of talk about this new integration law they're proposing.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's all about helping immigrants get settled in the Faroe Islands. It's pretty interesting because they haven't really had that many immigrants before, but that's changing, and this law seems like it's meant to help with all of that.
It'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Definitely.
Now, for something a little lighter, Lendisbetran, any guesses?
Hmm.
Well, it's actually in the running for Faroe's Word of the Year, and it basically means foreign improvement. So what do you think? What does that tell us about how the Faroes people think about change and stuff coming in from outside?
It's really interesting, right? Some folks seem to think Lendisbetran is a good thing. Like, they're open to new ideas and new ways of doing things.
Makes sense.
But others are kind of iffy about it. They might be worried about losing some of the traditional Faroese culture. I think it just shows how complicated globalization is for them. They're trying to figure out their place in the world.
Yeah, like holding on to their traditions while still being part of the bigger picture.
Exactly.
All right, switching gears a bit, Nes Kommune is getting a new kommunestjóri. That's like their city manager, right?
Yeah.
And it'll be Elsbeth E. Magnusson starting in January 2025. She's actually been the kommuneskrifari, the municipal secretary, so she's moving on up.
Yeah, that's a big job. She'll be in charge of basically everything for the whole municipality: budgets, policies, the works. It's a tough one, that's for sure. You need to really understand what the community needs and be able to handle all the administration stuff. But she's got the experience from being the municipal secretary, so she's off to a good start for sure.
That's great. I bet the people in Nes Kommune are looking forward to seeing what she does. Okay, before we get to sports, a quick reminder from TechX. If you're doing any holiday shopping abroad, remember to declare everything you buy when you get back to the Faroe Islands. That duty-free limit is 2,500 kroner, and it can be easy to go over without realizing it. I know I've been there, with one too many souvenirs, and trust me, sorting it out at customs is not fun.
Yeah, especially this time of year, all those Christmas markets are calling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, on to some happier news. Sports. We have to start with the amazing game by the Faroes women's handball team. They got a tie against Croatia in the European Championship.
Wow, that's huge.
It's the first time they've ever gotten a point in that tournament. Talk about a major accomplishment.
It really is. They've been putting in so much work, and to see it pay off like that on such a big stage, it's pretty inspiring. They held their own against a really tough Croatian team, shows how much their skills and their confidence have grown.
Seriously impressive. And closer to home, the TB volleyball team just moved up to third place after beating Unornir.
Yeah, that was a great match. Back and forth the whole time, some crazy rallies and athletic plays. TB really pulled it out in the end. I think their teamwork and communication were key, plus that strategy of theirs, focusing on quick plays and those aggressive serves. It really seemed like it worked for them.
Totally. Okay, shifting gears again, let's talk about something that everyone in the Faroe Islands has to deal with: the weather. Last week was, well, a little all over the place, right?
It really was, yeah. They had like super cold days and then calmer times, but with crazy high winds mixed in. It's those quick changes that get you, I think. One minute you're bundled up in your warmest sweater, the next you're like, wait, is it actually sunny out?
You really have to be ready for anything over there. It's got to make the people who live there super adaptable, right?
Oh, for sure. It's pretty cool, actually, how they just roll with it. And that connection to nature, it's a big part of Faroe's culture. Speaking of which, can we go back to that integration law for a sec?
Sure thing.
So we know it's supposed to help immigrants, but I've also heard it might help with something else. The labor shortage they've got going on.
Ah, yeah, I was wondering about that. How does that work exactly?
Well, the Faroes Employers Association seems to think it's a good thing. They're hoping that if it's easier for immigrants to integrate and everything, they'll be more likely to stay in the Faroe Islands and, work there.
Right, it makes sense.
Yeah.
If people feel welcome and supported, they're more likely to want to settle down, and that's good for everyone. It's like all these things we're talking about, they all connect somehow.
Yeah. And it all goes back to that word lendisbetrend, doesn't it? It's not just about like physical improvements coming from outside, but also all the changes that happen in their culture and their society because the world is so connected now.
It's like the Faroe Islands are figuring out who they are in this new world,
Mm.
like how to keep their traditions but also move forward.
Exactly. And I think that's happening everywhere, not just there. But it feels different in the Faroe Islands, They have such a unique history and such a strong sense of community.
It's special. And even that Tanax reminder about declaring purchases abroad kind of fits in too, right? It's like, yeah, be part of the global economy, but follow the rules.
You got it. It's like we're all in this together, and what we do matters, whether it's buying a souvenir or arguing about politics.
It's all connected. Okay, let's get back to some of those feel-good moments. That handball match, the Faroes women tying with Croatia,
I know.
still amazing. What do you think made that happen?
Well, their defense was unbelievable. They just shut down Croatia's attacks over and over, and then they were so smart about using fast breaks, taking every chance they could get to push forward and score. But honestly, I think it was more than just tactics. It was like they had this fire in them, this belief that they could do it, and the whole stadium felt it too. Everyone was going crazy.